There can be both internal and external factors which would drive conflict to emerge. So we'll take the internal ones first. So obviously, having a boring routine job that isn't very challenging can be a source of conflict. The flip side of that is if you have work that's too challenging or too demanding of you. So this will be a familiar situation for many of you, where you have staff shortages or a lack of training or general time issues where you're being asked to do so much in a very, very limited amount of time and you don't actually have that amount of time to work within. Um, a bad supervisor, or a bad colleague, and I don't mean bad as in evil, I just mean a bad relationship with them. And if you remember back when we talked about this one bad apple exercise that we did in the induction session, one of the things in relation to that is the idea that if you have one person in a workplace environment, they can actually catalyze a lot of conflict by just being there and being who they are. Another source of internal conflict is when your pay doesn't really balance out with what you're actually doing. So if you've had to act up and take on additional responsibilities, but you're not actually getting recognition um, for that in terms of pay, and that's obviously a fairly natural response for many people. And workplace politics are maybe a bit more difficult to pin down, but they can create huge amounts of conflict, which can be a big, big challenge then to actually work through. So that's the internal things that are actually native to the workplace. But there are also a variety of external drivers of conflict. And really, those external drivers are things that you would take with you into the workplace, or a person would take with them into the workplace. So, for example, if you're very stressed at home, that's clearly going to be an issue for conflict. You may not have as much tolerance for things that are going on in the workplace. If you have work that's too challenging and too demanding and you don't have enough time to do it, your work life balance may not be right. So you may be spending so much time at work that you're not actually getting a chance to have that absolutely necessary recreational time away from work. There may be medical issues. So you may actually have a significant issue that you're worrying about a lot, or that is preventing you, a health issue that is preventing you from otherwise being able to work normally in your job. And that, for example, could mean you're spending a lot of mental energy worrying about something, or it could mean that the work actually becomes more challenging. And then we have life transitions. So the classic example that's thrown around for life transitions are things like a baby arriving, a partner leaving, or someone dying. And that all can have an emotional effect on you, which makes it more difficult then to sort of self-moderate and self-manage yourself when you have those conflict situations, and maybe reduces your tolerance, and makes it more likely that someone could snap in that situation. So they're kind of typical, very broad, generic sources, okay? So we're not narrowing down very specifically to, you know, Janice is going on extra smoking breaks, or Bob is not doing his work in the lab. These are the quite specific things, okay? Very broad, which make people predisposed, I suppose, to conflict. Think of them almost like risk factors.